What's going on? Welcome to the 10th episode of In the AM with MC. Yeehaw to all my people listening. This hat is comically small. Gilly the kid has been wearing that big Philadelphia Eagles hat everywhere. A lot of cats are wearing them big hats. I need a big hat. I think a big New York Giants hat would be so tough. I need a big hat, but the way them hats is breaking the bank, man. I need somebody to donate to your boy. But enough of that. This is number 10 of In the AM with MC. So before we even get into the sports, I want to give a shout out to every single person who's listened, every single person that's helped me. Even if you don't realize you've helped me, both directly and indirectly. And it is so refreshing to be able to produce these episodes from start to finish. To sit down, I don't have my yellow legal pad with me. If I did, I would show it to y'all. But every single episode of this show, I sit down and I plan out in my yellow legal pad before I even start. It's obviously just like a mock-up of my thoughts. It's nothing is really set in stone, but I consider that to be like my pre-show on FS1 and on Get Up and on shows like that while they're getting mic'd up and while they're sometimes at the end of their makeup, they have a pre-show and all of the people sit there and they bring up the topics and they just kind of they let themselves be loose and be free with the topics in a way that allows them to just have 100% confidence when they get on screen and to just talk. And so I feel like my yellow legal pad is my personal pre-show because I'm talking to you or to myself, and that the episodes are just refreshing to do. It's always awesome to do them. And then at the end, the editing process is something that I feared the most going into this because I do edit the Polaroid podcast, but that is not visual. It's just audio, and editing audio is difficult, so I don't want to diminish that or try to make it sound like it's not as difficult as it is. Shout out to everybody out there that works with audio visuals and that just want to see each other win, man. So 10th episode of In the AM with MC. This started like title wise, like the title came from the first show, podcast, anything you want to call it I ever did, which was Mornings with Mac. My initials MAC. I can't remember who made the graphic. I really can't. I want to say it was my dog Max, but I can't remember who made the graphic. But it was a graphic of me um, inside of a mug, like a coffee mug with a, like it was like the periodic table and it was like MAC, so it was Mornings with Mac. Now it's In the AM with MC. We in here. We there. Okay. First and foremost, let's talk about Unrivaled. So Unrivaled, for those of us who are not following at home, is a first of its kind league in which WNBA, mostly from the WNBA pool of players who we're pulling from, right? These players have equity in the league. They're making the most base salary that they can make anywhere domestically playing basketball. And there's tons of incentives and bonuses built within the league. One incentive and bonus that we're going to discuss is the one-on-one tournament, the semi-viral one-on-one tournament. I don't know what constitutes as viral these days. The league itself has enough going on that the whole league is really viral. But the one-on-one tournament is super interesting. Um, Aaliyah Edwards is a player who really helped herself in the lexicon of the understanding of women's basketball, excuse me, because Edwards played at UConn and she I don't want to say she was diminished at UConn or she was forced to make small of herself, but Gina Oriyama is a tough cookie. You get in line or you get lost. And so at UConn, it was the Paige Becker show, and she was a part of the show, you know, when in reality, she really was one of the main characters. Nika Moore, like all of these players on the team as well, who might have kind of overshadowed Edwards. But you see Edwards playing one-on-one versus Brianna Stewart and basically leaving her on zero. What's going on? That would be the equivalent of Stephon Castle playing against Kevin Durant and leaving him on zero in a one-on-one tournament. And if you understand the NBA, you understand how crazy that is. And I hate to make that comparison because I wrote a whole article about how I'm sick and tired of the lazy comparisons of WNBA to NBA because we as a society haven't figured out how to accurately and fairly talk about these women's sports in this way without having to be like, well, it's just like this, right? It's its own thing. So we have ineffectively discuss the sport as the unique entity that it is, because that's what the WNBA is. Um, Shout out to Rakia Jackson. I saw an interview where they kept asking her about NBA players. Like, you're on a WNBA red carpet and you're asking me what NBA player I would date or what NBA player I model my game after. Like, no. And so she said, I don't watch the MNNBA. I love that. Shout out Rakia Jackson, a player who I think is going to take that year or two leap. Really is one to benefit from having Kelsey Plum on her team, a player who can be a distributor and a scorer when she has to be. And I like that she plays on the left side of the field, or left side of the court. Plum does, being a lefty, because that opens up angles for somebody like Jackson. Um, but back to the tournament itself, right? Aaliyah Edwards made a ton of money playing in this tournament and giving Brianna Stewart the work. She went all the way to the finals. And in the finals, she played Nafisa Collier, who is, in my opinion, the next face of the league. I feel like if she wasn't in the era of Asia Wilson, she would already be the face of the league, or the era of a Caitlin Clark. And even then, the whole face of the league stuff, I'm gonna get to that, man, because that I have a lot to say on that. But I say everything I said to say that Aaliyah Edwards' base salary as a rookie playing basketball was probably $50,000 to $70,000, if I'm just going off the top of my head. And she made a $50,000 bonus just by coming in second place in this tournament. Nafisa Collier got $200,000 for winning the tournament. And it was the kind of game that makes you appreciate how good Nafisa Collier is. I was in Pluckers with my girlfriend and the WNBA finals were on, and I just looked over there and I was just watching Nafisa get bucket after bucket after bucket. And it truly makes you have a different understanding and love for the game, because you're like, these are not easy baskets. And she's doing this with ease. You see Blake's over at the Vanderbilt with her 55-point game, her second 50-point game this season as a freshman in the SEC, the hardest basketball conference in all of women's basketball. Not only that, but I saw a statistic that blew my mind, that she had 30 points in the final 6 minutes of game time. That includes the last 2, 3 minutes of the game, and that includes the overtime period. So 30 points in a 6 minute span is absolutely nuts. But to score, have the game get paused, all of the adrenaline, all of the semantics and the theatrics that comes with going from regulation to overtime, and then knowing like the other team knows what you're gonna do in overtime, and it didn't matter for Blake's. So a performance like that for Blake's, that is what I would equate what Collier did in the finals while I was in Pluckers watching that game specifically. Um, it was a beautiful display of basketball. It was just a beautiful display of basketball. Um, and the one-on-one tournament is just a really awesome idea in every basketball league that exists, because yes, people were talking about this transition into the NBA, and this won't happen in the NBA for a couple of reasons, but the NBL would be a league I'd love to see this, because Montrezl Harrell is someone who plays in the NBL. RJ Hampton, he played in the NBL. LaMelo, there's a lot of talent in the NBL. And so I would love to see Montrezl Harrell go one-on-one versus a bunch of the dudes in the NBL. You have the mismatches, the natural mismatches, because in the women's game, obviously the same height requirements kind of work sequentially, just like they work in all other forms of basketball. But in the women's game, you have some point guards, two guards who are 5'11", 6 feet, and then you have, or 6'1", and then you have some bigs, some post players who are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". So it's not like Wembenyama versus Muggsy Bogues. These are players who, yes, like Aaliyah Boston maybe should not have went against Kalea Copper, right? But at the same time, it's awesome. It is so awesome to watch. Arike Ongubuale, she's the one-on-one player, and seeing her go toe-to-toe with like Angel Reese, or like I forget who they had her matchup, but like seeing all these players go toe-to-toe with each other who on paper maybe shouldn't go toe-to-toe with each other, and then watching what materializes, that is something that has staying power. So shout out to the commissioner of Unrivaled for coming up with that. Whoever came up with that, your idea will prosper forever, because that's something that has staying power. Now, here's why this won't happen in the NBA. One, injuries. Players in recent memory have been very weary of playing basketball that appears semi-recreational where they may possibly be injured. The two recent instances that have, to me, highlighted this and have shifted my focus towards looking at this specifically are Chet Holmgren and DeMarcus Boogie Cousins. Boogie Cousins, during that last little stint that he was in playing for the New Orleans Pelicans, when they had Rondo and AD, he was a problem. And even when he went for the Lakers for that little time, he was still good. Like there's been lots of times since Boogie had that last major injury. I can't remember if it was like a Achilles rupture or it was something with the lower body, with the leg or with the knee. When that happened to Boogie, he was never the same. And when Chet Holmgren injured himself right before his rookie season, playing pickup basketball at like a Rico Hines run, right? It really made people reevaluate, okay, like, do I just want to be hooping everywhere? And obviously these are the cameras. You know, tons of players lie about their injuries. John Wall said he slipped in the shower and he was out for 17 months. You didn't slip in the shower. Something really happened to Mr. Wall. And I'm not sure if it was while he was playing basketball or while he was doing something he was not supposed to be doing contractually. But the point stands where injuries is always going to be the main concern for these guys because they're making substantially more money. And that's something that can't be overlooked, right? They are making substantially more money. So you're asking for something else. Like it's easier to tell somebody who's making 100,000 to sacrifice a potential injury for the chance to make 200,000 versus somebody who makes 40 million tearing the ACL to make 200,000. So they either have to consider the injury factor or they have to sweeten the pot with more money or incentivize the tournament in some kind of way. Okay. That being said, Adam Silver clearly has a thing for tournaments. So I would be really scared if he added this one. The in-season tournament is already a lot. It's confusing. The courts are distracting. The NBA seems like they are so committed to being different from what it has already been in ways that unfortunately um are not, for lack of a better word, you're just not maximizing what you have in front of you. For example, the All-Star game format, East West. What's the problem there? Is there a problem with East and West? I don't think so. I don't think so. I've lost track at this point since Adam Silver's been the commissioner, which is going on 10, 11, 12 years. I've lost track of the amount of times where they've changed the format because at this point this year they have like they had like some rising stars and some G League guys playing against NBA All Stars, and Draymond went on a rant about how they don't deserve to be on the court. I mean, what is going on? You know, East West, keep it simple. East West, continue that rivalry, and whoever wins the game gets home court advantage for the finals. It's very simple. I don't understand on that front what's changed as far as the slam dunk contest discourse and the jargon surrounding that. I think it's pretty clear that we have grown fatigued with what we're seeing. You know, a behind the back dunk is not an easy feat, and you have to consider all the factors. Is this guy 7'1"? Is this guy 6 foot? Is this guy, um, I think that one year that they did like teams, it was like 3-on-3, whatever they did. That was the year that Damian Lillard and I think maybe John Wall's last year on the Wizards. He was in that. I didn't hate that one. I didn't hate that one. But the fact remains that we cannot continue to elevate Mac McClung from a G League player to an NBA player solely to dunk a basketball. That is a slap in the face to McClung. That's a slap in the face to all of the hardworking people in the NBA. And it's boring. It's boring. We need big names, right? We need like Anthony Edwards should have been in there. The fact that Anthony Edwards essentially is using the season to tell us that he's going to do whatever he wants is just unfortunate. You don't want somebody to feel like they're going to accept these keys to the city and that's going to be also burdensome and loathsome for them, right? LeBron James was not presented an easy role to be the face of the league. You're coming after Michael Jordan. None of your teammates want you on the team, and this is a couple of years before they're essentially about to remove letting high school athletes even go to the NBA. So there was a lot surrounding LeBron James becoming the face of the league. And it didn't happen overnight. He went through his struggles and it was part of his journey. Just imagine, and there's definitely clips of people berating LeBron James in the aftermath of the 2007 finals, right, versus the Spurs where they got swept. But just imagine for a second that we use that as a damnation. A guy 4 years into his tenure in the NBA who's expected to become the face of the league, and we looked at that as a damnation. We don't even let these guys fail eloquently. We see a guy like SGA. SGA is 6, 7, 8 years in the league. Not even. He's 6 years, 6, 7 years in the league. And he's putting together a campaign right now that I believe is MVP caliber. And so what do we do with SGA? Do we just say, hey, congrats on the MVP campaign? And do we allow him to grow in real life? No, we say, you are not anything to us until you do this. That's not how you treat faces of the league, right? Asia Wilson was number 1 overall for an expansion team. She became the face of the league. She is the face of the league. They eventually won multiple championships. She eventually won multiple MVPs. Yes, she grew really fast. Her learning curve wasn't the same as most of these other cats, but that's the whole point. That's the whole point, right? This person is generational. This is a generational talent. We've never seen anything like this. We've seen things like this. We've seen people like these people. But what is it about their game that we're going to elevate so that the average man, the average woman, the average child can understand this person is the face? How are we going to market them so they understand this person is the face? Why would Anthony Edwards come out and say, I don't want to be the face? What is it about what he believes comes with being the face, quote unquote, of the league that he doesn't like? What is it? You have to ask yourself that, right? Because a hero always resists the call to action, right? The call to adventure, but there has to be something there to incentivize them. It's to sweeten the deal, to sweeten the pie. There has to be something that they like about what they're about to embark on, what their endeavor is about to be. And so Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, those are two foreign guys who clearly like the job. They clearly like clocking into work and clocking out of work. And that's our fault, right? As a culture, all the semantics around the game, the difference between the game here and the game there. That's our fault that none of those guys want to be that face. And they're not going to come out and say it. And they're not going to come out and be crucified for denying it. Like Mr. Edwards will probably be by Ryan Clark. But I think that the answer to the who is the next face of the NBA question is nobody. The answer is you need to respect the talent in the league and market it correctly. You turn on any show that is primarily dedicated to NBA discourse, and they spend 50% of the time complaining about the show. They spend 45% of the time talking about LeBron James. And then that's it. The rest of the time just floats. I really did like I can't remember the shows, it Around the Horn or PTI, one of them with the show with Wilbon and them. I love that show because they just go down the list and they talk about the topics and they give it time. They give it the adequate time and they have the adequate preparation. I saw not Kyle Kuzma. I saw Patrick Beverly. They're gonna think this is an anti-Pat Bev pod because this is the second time I've done talked about the guy. But I saw him talk about best third options in the NBA. Number 2 is Kyle Kuzma. Are you watching basketball? Are you watching basketball? Would be my rebuttal to him. Is are you watching basketball? Austin Reeves 1, Kyle Kuzma 2, 3, Norman Powell. Are you watching the game of basketball? Like we as watchers, we as fans of the game, we've stripped players of adequate measuring sticks, okay, in this new day and age of basketball. If basketball is going to evolve where it's no longer 2, 3, where it's no longer 1, 2 guys getting all the buckets and everybody else running around. Now it's everybody can get a bucket. Everybody is getting buckets. We've had the most 20-point scorers at a time. That kind of stuff, the most 3-point shooters, 3-point shots, excuse me, per game, the most 3-point makes per game. The franchise records for threes are getting reset every game. We need to create new benchmarks to adequately assess these players. Because if not, the only thing we have is at the beginning of the year when ESPN says top 50 players under 25 and they put Franz Wagner at 41. What does that do for us? What does that do? Right? We need to create adequate ways to measure these guys' ability And we also are so caught up with the face thing that we don't understand that once you proclaim somebody as that face, LeBron has made it look so easy, Michael Jordan has made it look so easy that you think this person is now above criticism. And that's not the case. They said LaMelo could be the face of the league. And some people shot back, well, LaMelo's being inefficient, and some other people shot back. He can do whatever he wants. He's the face. Both things can be true. He is being inefficient, but yes, as the face, you can do certain different things, right? You can have liberties. Tom Brady was the face of the NFL for a good amount of time, and Deflategate was nothing but a chink in his armor, to be fully honest. Like in the moment, I still remember when it was happening and how his name and his reputation took a hit. But nobody is sitting there and saying, "Oh, well, he's a loser and a cheater forever." Nobody's saying that. They make jokes about it. When they roast him, the roasters are like, ha 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 ha. You know, he likes his balls with this much air. Like it's the butt of a joke now because he was the face of the league. Okay. So you need to be able to critique the faces of the league adequately. You need to be able to judge the other players in the league adequately. Um, and I think it's way more about that than about all of the jargon and discourse that surrounded All-Star Game weekend and all that's going on. Coming out of the break, teams only have about 29, 30, 31 games. So there's not a lot of time to move up and down in positioning and standing. I'm gonna love to see how the Wild Wild West plays out this year. But on the East side, I need Trae Young in the NBA Finals. It's his time. I need the world to see what Trae Young can do with a basketball in his hand. Final thing we're going to talk about today is who is next. Who is next in the NFL? All right. National Football League, and I'm not even going to waste my time getting into the game because you all saw it, right? The Eagles steamrolled the Kansas City Chiefs. And I told my buddy, I said, I think the Eagles are going to repeat. And he said, no way. So if not the Eagles, then who? That was for y'all. If not the Eagles, then who? You think that Kansas City is going to get there with that offensive line and with all those guys on expiring contracts who they're going to have to pay? I don't think so. There's tons of teams that are in the middle that are just doing nothing, like an Arizona Cardinals type. I don't think so. Houston Texans have a shot. Loaded line. I think they can probably go out in free agency this summer and get a guy like Calais Campbell, another veteran, to pair with all the young guys you have up front and some of the veterans you have up front. They have they probably need an upgrade at their linebacker two position behind Aziz, but their secondary is awesome. Their receivers are awesome. Their quarterback's awesome. Texans, maybe. Probably not, though. I really genuinely think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFL, and they will be again next year because when you just look up and down, they have too much. We're shifting towards NFL draft season and looking at needs. I don't think that there's a single rookie who drastically changes a team so much that now I say this team with this person can beat the Eagles. I don't even think there's a set of guys. It's not like you can draft realistically in the draft, it's not like you're going to get the 1, 2, 3 guy at the position. Even if you draft 3 rounds in a row at the same position, you're not going to get the 1, 2, 3 receiver, the 1, 2, 3 O lineman. It's not going to happen. So I strongly believe that a team that is so under the radar and so disrespected that can really make some noise next year is the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are not going through the same issues that the Bengals, one of their AFC opponents, is going through with having to pay guys. The Bengals just franchise tagged T. Higgins yet again. They have to make money for Trey Hendrickson, who's led the league in sacks yet again. They have to make money for Joe Burrow, who just had his best statistical season and did not get enough love for it. So the Chargers, who established the run this year in a big way, really, really Michigan style. Shout out Harbaugh. They have Herbert, who is always going to give you what he gives you. I hate that social media quarterback stuff from Mister. I'm doing whatever behind the scenes at FS1. I hate that junk. Okay, Herbert's a winner, and you give him a real one receiver. Lad McConkey went over 2,000 or over 1,000 yards this year. You got Lad McConkey out there catching the ball for him too. I want you to give him a big receiving tight end, a big strider, a guy who would really, really, really play well with um Herbert. Two guys actually are McBride and Evan Ingram. Both of those fellas can I see them as LA Charger guys. I see them being a part of that culture. They can't let go of Derwin James. He's my favorite safety in the league. Him and Buda Baker. Those are my favorite safeties in the league. And Derwin James sets the tone in ways that other players just simply don't. And he can make up for so much on the back end with his playing ability. I think as far as how well he plays the position, it's just him and Kyle Hamilton, and then there's a gap and then there's everyone else, you know. Justin Simmons used to be in that convo with them, but as you can see, like this year, he's not physically in that space anymore. Who's gonna stop the Philadelphia Eagles, guys? Is it gonna be the Commanders? The Commanders have a lot of cap space, young quarterback, offensive rookie of the year. They went really far this year. They went to the conference championship. Is it gonna be the Commanders? I don't know. But what I can tell you is the New York Giants will be drafting a quarterback. I can tell you that. I believe with them having the third pick, that they're gonna be able to have their pick of the litter. If I was the New York Giants, and it's early, but if I was the New York Giants, I'd trade down. I get best player available at 15 or 13. And then if I can stay with that second pick, because I idealistically trade down to let somebody else go up, they'd have to sacrifice, go 2 1s for my one or a 1 and a 2 for my one. If we get a later one, probably get a Q or get a stout offensive lineman. Will Campbell is going to drop a little bit lower than I think people anticipate, not because of ability, but just because of needs in the draft. Speaking of needs, the Giants have a big need at defensive tackle, and there are tons of defensive tackles in the league, in the draft that are enticing. They have a big they luckily this year we don't have a massive need at safety because we just drafted Tyler Nubin. I think we get a safety either in free agency or we get like a fourth round guy. No, we don't have to break the bank on a safety. We definitely don't have to go second round, but probably want a corner. Okay. I would not be opposed to Travis Hunter at all. Travis Hunter at corner, are you crazy? I would not be opposed at all because what's great about Travis is that there are few corners who are equally as good in man and in zone. Travis Hunter plays that flat zone in the cover two better than I've seen anyone play it. Um, the only knock on his game was like physicality, right, or the lack thereof. But it's null and void. I would be probably more concerned with that physicality if he played in the slot and there's situations where he's one-on-one in the hole with Saquon Barkley. I don't like that. But you saw when he forced the fumble on the 1 yard line, and the ball carrier was a tight end who was 80 pounds heavier than he was. You saw it's about him finding his spaces. Even though I just mentioned being possibly concerned about Travis because of his wiry frame, and being a little bit light in the behind, playing in the slot, you got a guy like Mike Hinton, right? Um, who just does that very well, very 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 well. Deshaun Elliott plays some nickel sometimes as well. He ain't all that big, so there's a lot of guys who can play that nickel position. But before we get out of here, I do have to give a shout out to Cooper DeJean for playing the nickel position as he does. He's one of the reasons that the nickel position was invented because when you watch him, he's a big, strong, fast guy. He can go and lay the lumber and run support. He can go and make those tackles on bubble screens, but he also can sink into the coverage. He also is a good communicator, so he can. I mean, no one, no. If a crossing route is run the right way, no one's getting to it. So he can pass routes off, find the next route, or time it right, get under it, like he did in the Super Bowl. I predicted on this very podcast or on this very episode, excuse me, I predicted on this very show that Cooper DeJean was going to take one back in the punt return game during the Super Bowl. Did not happen, but he did take one back on a pick six because of his prowess, his awareness, his football intuition. And I just have to give that massive shout out to Cooper DeJean. 10th episode of In the AM with MC. Let me know what you want to hear from your boy. All goes well. We got 10 and 11 both dropping on the 21st of February, which means happy birthday to my sister, Candace, 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 Candace. Happy birthday to Candace, the biggest dog. We all walk in your footsteps and we all stand on your shoulders. You know, And we have a little rivalry because she's an App State Mountaineer, and she will never, never, ever let me live down how they took out Michigan one time oh so long ago. But for today and today alone, you bask in y'all's victory. Howdy. This is episode 10. See you.